चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama.
What was the topic? Based on what Krishna's events. So today we are going from entertainment chapter 1 and the rest of the Krishna introduction. We will take verse number 27.
Audio is not clear.
So I will repeat Shri Vasudev Vraja,
Sri Vasudev Vraja,
Shri Vasudev
Bhagavan Roja Shastara,
Shri Vasudev Vraja, Swagriya Pranasule, Bhavan Roja Shastara, Sakam Vinhanya, Striyam Vahaparvanu, Shri Vasudev Vraja,
Sri Vasudev Vraja,
Swagriya Pranasule, भवान् भोजो यशस्कर स्त्रियं उद्वाह पर्वणि श्री वसुदेव उवाच
श्री वसुदेव उवाच भगिनी अन्यात् स्त्री उत्वाह पर्वणि
Anybody join us? Vasudev Vraja. The great personality Vasudev said, Sragniya Guna, a person who possesses praiseworthy qualities. Surai, by great heroes. Bhavan, what good said. Bhoja Yasha Kalala, a brilliant star in the Bhoja dynasty. Sa, one such as your good self. Katham, how? Agini, our sister. Anya, candid. Striyam, especially a woman. Vaha Parvani, at the time of the marriage ceremony. Vasudev said, my dear brother-in-law Kamsa, you are the pride of your family, and the great heroes praise your qualities. How could such a qualified person as you kill a woman, your own sister, especially on the occasion of her marriage? According to Vedic principles, a Brahmana And I said, if you go to Vrindavan, but make sure you don't hear the blasphemy of the Buddhists.
So I said, okay. And so I went to Vrindavan and I didn't talk to anybody. And I remember, so if you go to Cheer Ghat, so there is a original Cheer Ghat and there is a newer Cheer Ghat in Vrindavan, like just close to the Yamuna. I thought there was a lot of resonance. Okay. So I went to this Cheer Ghat. It's an old building, right? So the door was closed. And so I knocked on the door. And this man opened. He had big beard and, big jata. Not jata, big hair. He was looking very bright. So I went and I took darshan. And so this person said, okay, ISKCON se ho. Everybody understands Hindi, na? No, हाँ. So like ISKCON में खाली फर्स्ट सेकंड स्टैंडर्ड का ज्ञान मिलता है कि आप यहाँ आइए, हम आपको ग्रेजुएशन का ज्ञान देंगे. So I became very afraid, like I was very new. I immediately ran away from there. So I was discussing with my friends, okay, this guy I met, he was telling like this. So my friends said, बराबर है कि हमारा स्टैंडर्ड ही फर्स्ट सेकंड ग्रेड का है, तो हमको वही सीखना चाहिए. So Srila Prabhupada would constantly hammer, right? That do a reality check before understanding the reality, right? Because Krishna is Vastava Vastu, right? If you see the definition of what is Vastu and what is Vastavikta, I mean, these two definitions are, they fill chapters in Jaiva Dharma. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur really explains, and I mean, sometimes you will feel, array, how much philosophy is there in these two words? What is Vastu? So Krishna is Vastava Vastu. To understand Krishna, we have to first understand some reality about ourselves. And Vasudev is telling Kamsade exactly the same thing, right? So should we start? So here, we all know that Mother Earth, she went to, Brahmaji with her distress. There's so much of military. She was really distressed. And Brahmaji with the demigods, they went to the ocean of milk. And Lord Krishna says, I will appear. So Shukdev Goswami starts from the point, he explains about Shurasena. So we should understand who is Shurasena. Even I didn't know. So when Parashuram, for the first time, Lord Parashuram, for the first time when he killed all the Kshatriyas. So they were basically Kartavir Arjun and his sons. So Kartavir Arjun had, I think, 100 or 1,000 sons. And he butchered everybody of them, but 5 of the sons, they ran away. And Parshuram also, he didn't go after them for some divine arrangement. And the eldest of these 5 sons is Shurasen. So this Shurasen, he basically made Mathura his capital because he understood Mathura is a very holy place. It is connected to Lord Krishna. So that is this Shurasen. So Shukdev Goswami is describing how in Shurasen, this family of Maharaj Shurasen, they occupied Mathura, etc. And then he comes to the point that there was this marriage ceremony. So Mathura Mandal, right? So Vasudev, Lord Krishna's father, and Maharaj Devaki's father, and then Maharaj Ugrasen. So they are all in the same town. Like Bangalore is a big town, and you have suburbs. You have RR Nagar, you have Kumaraswamy layout, right? You have Banashankari. So they are staying in the same place, but in different sections. So Kamsa is, the cousin brother of Devaki. And while the marriage is done, And now the point is, Devaki is going from her father's house to her new house, the husband's house. And Devaki and Vasudev are sitting on the chariot. And Shukdev Goswami really goes into the details of what kind of dowry Maharaj Devak gave. So we won't go into the details. And while they are just about to start, so Kamsa, feels very emotional that, oh, my sister is going. And he was very loving to Devaki. You should understand. So what Kamsa would do, whenever he would conquer any demigod, he would take the Rupavastra and he would gift it to Devaki. So, conquering a demigod and taking his Rupavastra is a very big pride, But he would give that as a, affectionate gift to Devaki. And Devaki would love it. She would, make dolls. She would dress her dolls with that Rupavastra. So Devaki was very, beautiful and very innocent. And Kamsa would just love her. So even, demons have, some good qualities, but they don't remain good for long. So he said, okay, I want to drive the chariot. He removes the charioteer and he starts riding the chariot. Now, all these demigods, they are so concerned. Now, if you can imagine, after Ravana, I think Kamsa was the person who not only defeated demigods, but he also defeated a lot of demons. I mean, if we can think about what he would do. So he was a real mafia. So what he would do, he would go to a demon and he would challenge them to a fight. And then he would fight them, and they were just on the verge of, he would come to the point of killing them, but he would not kill. He said, I will spare your life if you just join me without any condition. Just a pure servant. Whatever I say, you will have to do. Right? So these demons, for saving their life, they would, okay, agreed. So you can imagine Aghasur, Bakasur, right? Putana, then Trinavarta. I mean, big demons Kamsa had defeated. If you think about, and the Acharya said, so every day there would be a demon in Vrindavan. Every day there would be a demon. They would come at lunchtime, right? So you can imagine, Lord Krishna said approximately 11 years in Vrindavan. So 11 into 365, approximately. Kamsa would have conquered those many demons. So he was so powerful. And these demigods were thinking, my God, this person, if he starts serving the father and mother of Krishna, then Krishna will become affectionate to him, and he will not kill him. Because, if you are a servant of Krishna's devotees, then Krishna won't, he would become disposed, favorably. So they said, we have to stop this. So what they did, they caught hold of one demigod and say, okay, Akashvani karo. Please speak what is going to happen. So this demigod speaks, I'll quote that verse. So this demigod very nicely, he says that, oh, Abudha means you foolish rascal. So the demigod was also having a nice time because you can't see them, right? So, Asharira Vak. He heard a Sharira Vak, means an embodied voice. And what the embodied voice said, you foolish rascal. Kamsa, you foolish rascal. The eighth progeny. So they didn't say, they say Garbha. They didn't say whether it's a Putra or Putri to confuse Kamsa. That the eighth progeny of your sister Devaki will kill you. Right? So as soon as Kamsa hears this, all his good emotion You can just imagine, just think, we being in that situation. Let's say, you have a very close relative, even if they do something, wrong, for example, you won't immediately try to kill them. But Kamsa was so cruel and body conscious. You can imagine the, love that he had for his body. I mean, we find human beings who don't care about their body. They are willing to serve, they are willing to, sacrifice, right? You see all the, soldiers on the front. They are not attached to their bodies, because if you are attached to the body, you will not go to fight. Correct? They have some sense of, higher understanding. But Kamsa, although he was so powerful, he was so attached, and with that attachment, he was insecure. He was insecure that he may die. So he immediately, with his right hand, he took his sword, and with the left hand, he grabbed Devaki by her hair. And that is so cruel, actually. I mean, how many of us has, tried to, catch somebody's hair? I mean, unless is really your enemy, right? Or you have, lot of enmity and lot of, anger against that person. So Kamsa's whole mood changed completely. It's like when a caterpillar becomes a butterfly. It's a complete change. You can't understand, though it was a caterpillar. So Kamsa, of course, it was not a butterfly. Butterfly is beautiful. I just give an example. Completely changed. He took up his sword to kill Devaki. Just didn't care about what was the occasion, who she was, right? Nothing. He was just ready to kill her. Here Vasudev comes. Oh my God. So my wife is in danger. So now he has to save her. So Vasudev says to Kamsa, this is the verse where Vasudev starts his instruction. So Vasudev says, Slagniya Guna, a person who possesses praiseworthy qualities. Actually, sometimes a person may not have praiseworthy qualities, right? But you have to glorify that person, because when you glorify somebody, they become a little mellow down, right? When you if somebody comes in front of you with a gun, ready to kill you, you will say, you are a strong man. You are merciful. You should take care of others, right? When when our Goswamis, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, when they were escaping from that prison, what did they tell to the jailer? Are you are a great person. You are a banda of Allah, right? So they glorified, so that when that glorification makes a person thoughtful a little bit. So Vasudev was telling everything that Kamsa was not, right? Oh, you are Shlagniya, you have praiseworthy qualities. That, and you are glorified by Sura. Means he's saying that you are not glorified by Panditas or devotees. You are glorified by those who are good in fighting. So Vasudev is also very careful in his glorification. That you are glorified by, the strong men. And basically all his friends were, Rakshasas. Okay, with so much of, and you are the pride of the Bhoja dynasty. Now, Bhoja means enjoyment, Bhoga. So this whole dynasty was into sense gratification. And Vasudev saying, you are the star of that dynasty. So you are not Vairagya Shiromani, you are Bhoja Shiromani. Means you are the supreme most in enjoyment. Of course, Kamsa was, also foolish. He couldn't understand what Vasudev is telling. He was so ignorant. He's saying, you are such a great person. How can such a great person harm somebody? First of all, she is from your family. Plus, she is a lady. Plus, she is your sister. Plus, the occasion is of her marriage. that considering this, how can you harm? So Vasudev actually asked this question to Kamsa. Kamsa says, I have to protect myself. Didn't you hear what the Akashvani said? Okay, her eighth progeny is going to kill me. I have to actually protect myself. So then Vasudev actually starts giving him, Atma Gyan, right? So what did Vasudev say? Mrityur Janmavatam Veera. Right? In Bhagavad Gita also there is a verse. Right? What is that verse? I was just talking to Rasanan. What is that verse? I just told you in the rickshaw. Jatasya hi mrityur dhruvam. Dhruvam mrityur. Right? Right. So what Krishna is telling? One who has taken birth has to die. And one who is dying, again a rebirth is going to happen. So, O great hero, one who takes birth is sure to die. For death is born with the body. So it is amazing philosophy is giving. What Vasudev is telling, as soon as you are taking the body, when you are going to die is already nischit. Right? Nobody can avoid it. It's impossible. And Krishna is also confirming that. Right? One who is taking birth, he has to die. There's no doubt about it. Right? But one who is born, the illusion is so strong, they think that they will never die. And we know that, in Mahabharata, this Dharmaraj Yaksha, when he's asking these questions he says, Kim Ascharyam? He asked this question, Kim Ascharyam? What is the most wonderful thing? So Yudhishthira replies, Ahani Ahani Bhutani Gachanti Yamalayam. So we are seeing that everywhere people are going away. Gachanti, where? Yam Alay. Yamalayam means they are going to the abode of Yamraj. But whoever is remaining, Shesas Sthavaram. Sthavaram means permanent position. Sthan. Right? I am now sitting is a sthan. Sthan is something which doesn't move. Right? So it's not that, this building will move on its own. It's a sthan. It's fixed. So whoever is remaining is thinking this is fixed. My situation is fixed. They are not thinking, they are desiring. Icchanti. Shesha sthavaram icchanti. What can be more wonderful than this? Kim ascharyam athaparam. What can be more wonderful? Because something is inevitable. And people are seeing this, but still they are thinking it will not happen to them. What can be more wonderful? Right? So Vasudev is telling the same thing. Are mere bhai, he is like brother-in-law now. So he can say that. That my dear brother-in-law, you are born, you have to die. There is no question about it. It's fixed. And there are so many stories, There is a nice story which I heard. So one time, the maternal father of Vasudev, so Satyavati's father, the fisherman. So he was talking to his friends and he said, I don't want to die. What should I do? So he was consulting his friends. So his friends were, your Nati. Nati means your daughter's son. He is God himself. You go and talk to him. So they told you, go to Vasudev and talk to him. Na? He can change anything. So he said, oh, that's a good idea. So he goes to Vasudev and says, my dear, grandson, I have a desire. Said, okay, what is your desire? Well, I don't want to die. Vasudev internally laughed. He said, okay, that department is not mine. Ke Vidhata. Brahma is the, Vidhata, right? So he can change something. So you go to Brahma. So, we can imagine at that time, this was easy. You could go to Brahma also. So he said, okay, why don't you also come with me? So Vasudev goes with him. They go to Brahma. And Brahmaji says, okay, what is the thing? So Vasudev says, you only tell, I will not tell. So he says, I have a desire that I don't want to die. So Brahmaji says, okay. But I am in charge of creation. That the destruction in charge is Mahadev. You go to Mahadev. He says, okay, you also come with me. So then Vasudev, Brahmaji, and this, Nana, they go to Mahadev. Now, Mahadev is very happy, devotees have come to his place. And after the, initial pleasantries, okay. So he says, I have a desire that I don't want to die. Mahadev says that it is right that I destroy, but this department is with Mahakal. So we need to go to him. So then he says, okay, you also come with me. So Lord Shiva, Brahma, Vasudev, and this person, they go to Mahakal. And same thing happens. Mahakal said, Arey, you came to the wrong place. You have to go to Yamaraj. He has the account of everything. He has that book. He can change in that book. Right? Sometimes you do, na? In the accounts, you can change something. So he has the full authority. So he said, okay, you also come. So I want witnesses that, I talked to so many people and everybody is agreeing that you are agreeing and you are helping me. So they go to Yamaraj and Yamaraj says, okay, call Chitragupt. Chitragupt is a scribe, na? He has that whole book. So Yamaraj says, okay, Chitragupt, open the book and see what is his, situation. So as soon as Chitragupt opens the book, he dies. Because in the book it was written that when Brahma, Lord Shiva, Mahakal, Vasudev are present in Yamloka with this person, and when Chitragupt opens the book, he will die. So this person, if he would have never done anything, he would have lived. So the point is, nobody can avoid death. And Vasudevji was trying to explain Krishna, Kamsa. So in Niti, right, there is different ways of getting your work done. Sam, Dam, Dand, Bhed, right? So Vasudev is using Sam very nicely. Now how to explain things. And then he says that he's describing in detail that when the present body turns into dust, now we see either the body turns into dust, especially in Hindu culture, right? The Sanatan Dharma culture, you burn the bodies. So it is just turns into dust. So it is that process is called Panchatvam Apanne. So there is a big stock, right? Mahabhut. Pancha Mahabhut. Earth, water, fire, air, ether. Why it is called Mahabhut? Because that stock is almost unlimited. Means in the creation, the maximum thing that Krishna has created is these 5 things. They are in huge quantity. Right? So when at the time of death, when everything is returned to that stock, so what happens? Either you turn into dust or either you turn into stool, right? Because in some cultures, they will give it to vultures, or like in Parsi culture, Zoroastrianism, they put, curd on the body and they leave it on the terrace, or they just throw it. Some places they throw it in the Ganges, right? Bodies. So what happens? Fishes are eating, the dogs are eating, etc., etc. And then once they are digested, it goes into stool. So either you become, ash, or you become stool, or you become, vid. Vid means, this small bacteria, right? They decompose your body. So he says that this, whatever your body is made up of, you have taken from that stock, but that stock has to go back. It cannot remain with you. But the soul is eternal. When the present body turns to dust, it again reduces to 5 elements: earth, water, fire, and ether. The proprietor of the body the living being automatically receives another body of material elements according to his fruitive activities. So when the next body is obtained, he gives up the present body. So how would you understand this? Vasudev is telling, when the next body is obtained, then you leave this body. Is it logical? Because usually when we leave, then we receive. But Vasudev ji is telling a very fine point, and he's explaining with example. So what he is telling, that by your fruitive activities, you are creating a body, and that body is the Sukshma Sharir, the body which is made up of the mind, intelligence, and false ego. So although you are having a gross body and you are identifying with the gross body, but by your activities in this life, you are creating a body which is a Sukshma body. So once that body is ready, so what happens is, if you think about it, you have an empty canvas, right? And you start painting something, correct? You have different colors, different brushes, you have different thoughts, ideas, you'll use different strokes. And once the whole painting is done, right, that means you'll get the next body. So what we are doing in this life, actually we are painting our next life, right? So what kind of mentality we are having? Are we having a mentality of a dog? Are we having a mentality of a monkey or a pigeon, right? So especially all these material qualities that we have, they are all animalistic qualities actually, if you think about it. Because in all these qualities, all kinds of material enjoyments, there are animals who have done PhD in that. You can't defeat them. Right? You can't defeat a bear in sleeping. They can sleep for 6 months, without any problem. Right? You can't defeat a pigeon or monkey in sense enjoyment with the opposite sex. You just cannot defeat them. Right? You can't defeat, big gorillas and elephants in eating. And they can eat tons of food without any problem. So all our attachments, their animal kingdom is much better in that. Right? Man has not created a plane which can just take off in a second when there is a danger. But you see little birds, like sparrows, or crows or pigeons. As soon as they sense something, they can just vanish. We want to do that, right? They're creating movies like Iron Man and this and all. What are they showing in that? They are creating an imaginary picture where, a person is just taking off when there is danger. But that desire, that plan is coming from the animal kingdom, right? Because man on his own cannot do that. Unless you are a demigod or, you are a Siddha Purusha, right? You can just vanish, right? Star Trek, they used to show. You go to that room and you vanish, right, from one place to other. So these desires, that human beings have, actually they are in perfection in Krishna's creation. So when we have those desires which are animalistic, then at the end of the life, when you have to return that Pancha Tattva stock, not Pancha Tattva, Panchatvam. So by that time your design is complete. Okay. So as soon as you die, you receive the next body. And in case you got frustrated, so much frustrated that you took the canvas and tore it up. Right? So those are the people who commit suicide. Right? They are so frustrated, they just tear the canvas, they throw away everything. All the tools that Krishna has given to perfect their lives, they want to just throw it away. So what happens to them? They become ghosts. Right? Because you have to complete that time frame. So Vasudev ji is telling a very So of course, if you read ahead, Kamsa didn't take any, he didn't buy any of it. He didn't buy any of it. So the conclusion is actually Vasudevji is telling for us. Otherwise, why would it be in Bhagavatam? And Vasudevji also knows he is not going to understand. But for our sake, even before we can relish Krishna's pastimes, right? Krishna's Bal Leela, his Makanchor Leela, his cute activities, innocent activities. One has to thoroughly understand that we are not his body. We are a person within the body, and we need to basically sort this out. All our attachments and everything. And I'll tell a nice story about attachment later on. So, and then Vasudev ji gives him a practical example that how only after you receive the next body, you leave the present one. How? So he's telling, just like when you are traveling, unless you put the next foot firmly, you don't pick up your previous step. Correct? We all can understand that. Unless the next foot is firmly established, we don't pick up the next. And it is so much in motion that we don't realize. Like we don't realize that we are blinking our eyes, our eyelids. We don't realize we are breathing. We don't realize that when we are walking, there is so much of science in walking, and there is such a deep philosophical point in walking, right? We don't realize that. But Vasudev is telling, my dear brother, when you walk, unless you put your next foot firmly, you don't change. And then another example he gives is that just like a caterpillar, unless he catches hold of the next leaf, it doesn't let the previous leaf go. So you have seen, right? They walk like this, right? Those caterpillars. So they place the first, then they lift their tail and then put it. So it is like this, they put, then right? Like this they goes. So beautiful example Vasudev is giving. But still he's looking at the facial expressions of Kamsa. He's saying this guy is not understanding. Then he gives a very nice point to explaining. See, the whole problem was Kamsa was afraid of death. That was his problem. And actually, if you see, all demons have the same problem. Ravana also was afraid of his death. Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha was also afraid of their death. Kamsa also was same. So for some reason, this desire of living in the present body, actually it's a demonic desire. It is. Bhagavatam is proving that. This desire of living permanently in this body, actually it's a demonic. And if you see the 17th chapter where Krishna is describing the divine and demonic qualities, he tells this point, how a demon thinks. Right? Okay, I'm undestroyable. I have this much now. I'm going to defeat my enemies. And this much is mine. And more I will get. And I'll live happily ever after. Right? This is all a Western concept. And they all lived happily ever after. How can you live forever happily after, in this material body? Right? So that much thought on the temporality of the body and the permanence of the soul is not discussed anywhere. Right? Because in the other systems of religion, the body itself is considered as the soul. There is no differentiation. Right? Therefore, what they do, they put the body in the grave because they think that at the judgment day, all these bodies will come out of the grave and they will be judged. I mean, it's a full stock of ignorance actually. Right? So much. So, see, Krishna is explaining, what is that verse? That as a person changes a garment. No. Vasamsi jirnani. Right? Vasamsi jirnani yatha vyaya. So if you take Krishna's example, what the whole world is doing, Just imagine you remove the coat and you say, oh, I am dead now. Right? It's like that. Krishna is telling, you are just changing the coat. You are not dying. You're just changing the coat. So if you remove the coat and say, oh, I am dead. Or you remove the coat and and decorate it very nicely then. Right? You brush it out. There are lint removers. You take out lint from the coat. So the whole world is actually doing that. After the death, they decorate the body. Because at the time of death, it was not looking very good. And since we are so much attached to looking something nice, so they decorate the body. Like, I have been in a funeral in the United States. And believe me, it's a whole, see, we all have skills, right? Somebody is a painter, somebody is a, developer, or, somebody is a construction man, this. This is also a skill, how to decorate a dead body. Really. And you have to really pay a high price. I mean, there are different categories of, funeral places. So if you go to the, topmost funeral places, like I went into one funeral house and you will be shocked, Prabhujis. When I go into a store, how things are displayed nicely. In funeral houses, the casket in which the body is kept. So different cuts of the caskets are on display. And they have a price tag. $4,000, $10,000 worth of casket. For what? Mandanam Lokaranjanam. Decoration of the dead body. And for whom? Actually, there is a nice verse I just remembered in CC. Bhagavad Bhakti Hinasya Jati Shastram Japastapa Apranasya Dehasya Mandanam Lokaranjanam. For a person devoid of devotional service, birth in a great family or nation, knowledge of revealed scripture, performance of austerities and penance, and chanting of Vedic mantras are all like ornaments on a dead body. Such ornaments simply serve the concocted pleasures of the general populace. I mean, for a person who is dead, doesn't matter if you deface that person, cut his body into thousands of pieces, and just throw it to the dogs and jackals, or if you just decorate that person with nice powder and everything. It doesn't matter. So for whom we are doing that? It is for the ignorant crowd who is going to come in that funeral. Right? So much of ignorance actually. But in the Vedas, the concept of the soul and the body and what is their relationship and what are the subtle aspects of desire, of willingness, thinking, how it creates a future. And nobody discusses that. Right? So many scriptures we have. There is only one scripture. Right? So then Vasudev says, okay, my dear brother, you must have dreamt sometime. How many of us, they don't dream when they sleep? Anybody? No dreams at all. Everybody dreams. So Vasudev is explaining, see, when one person sees something, he uses drishta shrutabhyam. When you see something or hear something, by that seeing and hearing, what happens is, there is a sanskar created in the mind. You create an impression. So for example, I'll tell you, of course, I should not speak about myself, but I don't know about your experience. I am telling my experience. So when I came into Krishna consciousness initially, I heard about New Vrindavan. It's a very beautiful place. Prabhupada has created a Vrindavan. Then somebody gave me a magazine of New Vrindavan. So it had that palace of gold, and I was, wow, kya jagah hai yaar, jana chahiye. So what happened? You heard and you saw and you created a desire कि उधर जाना चाहिए. Huh? And when the desire is consistent, then you start planning, you think, okay, मैं कैसे करूँगा? How will I do this? And then you will end up in this life or the next life. So I landed within a month. So, just a small example, but actually, if we think, see, we are going to places, or we are on the internet, we are doing our work, and there are so many pop-ups that are coming. Okay, this place you visit, or this deal is going on. So what is happening is the world is trying to give us different impressions, right? The whole world is engaged, especially all the corporate people. They actually want to seek your attention so that they can give you an impression, right? And based on that impression, they know once you see something, even for 2-3 seconds, it will go into your subconsciousness. They have actually studied everything. They know it. That ek bar dekh liya na. And see, we are also in the same business, na. We want to show Krishna. So therefore, sometimes we are actually accused. Why are you making show of your bhakti? So many times people say, why are you making show? Why should we not show? The whole world is a show business. So Krishna is the Supreme Personality. That has to be shown much more. Right? Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, we can print a magazine every minute. Right? Because there is so much to tell about Krishna that we can print a magazine every minute. And still, it will not be complete. But the world does not have to offer anything that is eternal. Right? All that they are offering is things that are going to get decomposed, they are going to get destroyed, ultimately die, but they want our attention. So Vasudev is telling that when you are seeing or hearing about something, you are creating an impression in your mind. So similarly, what happens is with those impressions, when you sleep, that impression will come in your dream. It happens like that, no? And when that impression comes in the sleep, you forget your own body right now. And then you are living that life. Correct, na? That's the dream. Now just imagine, we will take this example a little further. So typically we sleep for 8 hours, right? And devotees, usually try to sleep for 5 or 6 hours. The Goswamis, they hardly slept. No question of dreaming. So let's say out of 8 hours, we dreamt for 5 hours, for example. And if our life is 100 years, that means we dreamt for 20 years. So basically for 20 years, we were living a different life. And we completely forgot about this life. So 20 years you were in a different body. 20 years. So Vasudev is telling that, Vasudev, okay, when you are dreaming, you forget everything about this body. What if the dream is elongated? Okay, what if the dream becomes that reality and you never wake up? So that means you will start living in that dream. So that means that becomes your reality now. So why are you so attached to this body now? Because you are already forgetting the body so many times when you are sleeping. So, and there is a nice story. So Janak Maharaj, not the father of Sita Maharani. So in their lineage, all the kings are called Janak. So there was some Janak. So when he was sleeping, so what happened was he went to sleep, and he went to sleep on a pure white bed. and the bed had pearls, white as the frill, and everything was very nice. He went to sleep, and in the dream he saw that he was a beggar. King is dreaming that he was a beggar, and he was so broke, so hungry that he was begging everybody, and everybody was denying him. Keh rahe, kuch nahi, we don't have anything. And out of hunger, so he went to a dharmshala, where they distribute free food. And he didn't have anything but just his hands. So in that dharmshala also, in the pot, everything was finished. He said, I need to eat something, otherwise I'll die. So that person says, okay, let me check. So he says, okay, there is something stuck. So he removed that burnt khichdi or whatever it was. He was removing it. So you see, many times, between the door of the place and where you are standing, there is a gutter. Right? You've seen in villages sometimes. So what happens is that person is giving the khichdi and he's doing this. But when he does this, instead of falling in the hand, it goes into the gutter. And he wakes up. And he says, what was that? He's confused. So he calls all his scholars. And he explains, okay, I dreamt like this. Now you need to tell me what is real. Is this real or that was real? You need to tell. All the Pandits are, like, how do we explain the king? They couldn't answer. So, Ashtavakra Muni comes. So Ashtavakra Muni comes, okay, I have a question. So Ashtavakra Muni says, okay, I'll ask you a question, but you have to ask a question from a lower pedestal. You can't be sitting on the throne and asking me a question, because knowledge has to flow from up to down. So Janak was very intelligent. He says, okay, you sit, Baba, on my. So Ashtavakra Muni sits and he says, okay, now ask. So he explains the dream. He says, I want to understand what is reality. He says, my dear son, neither the dream is reality, nor this is reality. Because this is also a dream only in one sense. But the person who is experiencing, that person is the reality. The soul is experiencing that dream. Because we all have that sense of, I. That, okay, I am experiencing. Either you are in the dream or you are experiencing the dream. Right? That's what happens. So Vasudev is explaining Kamsa that this life is also like a dream. And once you wake up to another reality, that is what is death. And you have been dying so many times every day. As soon as you sleep and you forget about this body, this is death. And then, you are reborn into some other body. Then you die there. Then you are again back to this body. Then you again sleep. That you are afraid so much of dying, but this is happening constantly. What is the big deal? Kamsa is still, he is not understanding anything. So now Vasudev says, okay, this guy, because Kamsa had no Sukriti actually to understand higher realities. So then Vasudev says, okay, then Vasudev is thinking, now I have to actually do something out of the box. Because this guy is, very strong. I am not very strong. With physical force, means I cannot use dand on him. And Sam, he is not understanding. Dam, he is more rich than me. Right? And Bhed, So then he uses the Bhed. He says, okay. Now he differentiates between Devaki and his children. So isko Bhed bolta hai. Okay, you have no fear from Devaki. Whom you are fearing? Tell me. Bola 8 son. Oh, 8 son to hai nahi. 8 son is not existing. But Kamsa is telling, but if Devaki lives, he will come, na? So he will come. And they had no concept of, his family planning. Keh rahe hum, shaadi kar lenge aur bacche nahi karenge. Right? Now I see even devotees, this is happening. शादी हो गई, बच्चे नहीं चाहिए क्योंकि सेवा करनी है. And that's a separate issue. But that time there was no such concept. Means when you get married, children are natural. It's a very natural thing. Right? There is no, two thoughts about it. So Kamsa said, okay, if she is living, then you are going to have children, na? So then he says, okay, I'll give you my sons who are born. So Vasudev is saying, Putran, I'll give you all the sons who are going to kill you. Now, if you understand, Vasudeva was very smart. Although, and we should understand that how, even in the greatest calamity, if our sadhana is strong, if we are really attached to reality, then Krishna gives us guidance. So Vasudev, the way he presented, I will give you all the sons who are going to kill you. But actually the Akashvani was that the eighth child is going to kill. Vasudev didn't mention that he is going to give the eighth son. You can read this verse. Vasudev says, where is it? By delivering. Yes, 54. Sri Vasudeva Vacha. Nahi asyaste bhayam saumya. Yad vai saha shariravak. Putran. So putran is a plural word. Putra is a singular word. Putran samarpaisya yathaste bhayam uttitam. Vasudeva says, therefore I promise that when she gives birth to the sons from whom your fear has arisen, I shall deliver them all unto your hands. So Vasudeva says, my dear brother, I will give all but the eighth child. Usko main nahi dunga. I will give all others to you, but I will specifically not give you the eighth child. Because Vasudeva said, how can I give, because Vasudeva understood that Krishna is going to come. Okay, how can I give Krishna away? That is disservice. So a devotee, so there is a darshan aspect and there is a rasa aspect in our scriptures. So the darshan aspect is that if somebody just thinks about philosophy, he'll think, Arey, Krishna ko de diya, kya hua? He'll protect himself. Right? Because he is God. How can God be killed? Vasudev could have thought like that. So if Vasudev would have thought like that, Krishna would have never come. He has no love. But because he was extremely, loving, he said, I'll give all the sons, but I'll not give my special child. And I'll make sure that you die. So although Vasudeva was telling, okay, you leave, you don't have to fear your death, but he was also telling that you are going to die. Right? Because I'm going to give all but the eighth child. And Vasudev did exactly what he was telling Kamsa. Right? So, like that, he was trying to convince. So finally he distinguished, okay, Devaki, you don't have any fear. You have only fear of these sons. And I will give away these sons. Right? So Kamsa, but he was so attached. So at that point, he accepted. So what he essentially did was, he renounced from his position of killing Devaki. But when Vasudev presented the first son, at that time also said, Arey, I don't have any fear. So again he renounced his fear. Okay, I am not afraid of this. I'm afraid. So at that time, if you read the Bhagavatam, Vasudev knew that this person's mind, you cannot be trusted. Because he will become attached again. Whatever he told, he will just forget. Right? So this sense of attachment is so strong. So there is a nice verse by Shankaracharya. Yeah. Angam galitam falitam mundam dashana vihinam jatam tundam vruddho yavati grahita dandam tadapi na munchati asha pindam. So these desires and attachments, they will never go away. Right? This Asha Pind. Pind is like the snake, right? He's like sitting. He will never go away. You may lose your Angam Galitam. Your body may grow old like a candlestick. It will just Galitam means it will melt away. Dashana Vihinam, your nice set of teeth, which you may be proud. You may be proud of your smile. Dashana Vihinam, it will go away. Jatam Tundam. Then you will get bald. And Vriddho Yavati, when you get old, Grahita Dandam, you will have to then walk with a stick. But even in that condition, your desires and your attachments will still haunt you. Right? And there is a Akbar Birbal story about that. Right? I'll not tell that. I'll tell a different story. And I'll then end the class. How this attachment is so strong. And the only way to curb these attachments is by doing intense devotional service to Krishna. Right? Akama sarva kamava moksha kama udarati tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusha param. One has to somehow come to the point of pleasing Krishna once. Once. If we please Krishna once only, then Krishna, takes care. He becomes the swift deliverer. Krishna gives this promise. So, we all heard about this story. We know Vikramaditya. Who is Vikramaditya, right? So in North India, Vikram Savanth. In South India, it is Shalivahan, right? That's how we calculate the dates. So Vikramaditya was a younger brother of Maharaj. What is the name? Bhartrihari. Yes, thank you. So Bhartrihari was a very pious king. He was a devotee of Lord Shiva. But he was extremely attached to his wife, named Pingala. He was so attached to his wife that in glorification of her wife, of course, she was very beautiful, he wrote Shringar Shatak, describing the beauty of his wife. So, but Vikramaditya was very intelligent. He knew that his sister-in-law had a little bad character. So he told his brother, okay, my dear brother, you should keep a watch on your wife. I see there is some, problem. Bhartrihari was very simpleton. So he didn't believe. And somehow, the wife came to know that Vikramaditya knows about my, she had some extramarital affairs. So what she did was she paid, money to one merchant and told the merchant that you go and report to the king that Vikramaditya has some, wrong connections with your son's wife. So the merchant did that. And Bhartrihari was very simple and he believed the merchant. And his wife also told, yes, I know about this. So he exiled Vikramaditya from his kingdom. So Vikramaditya is out. And then one saint came to Bhartrihari's house in the kingdom, in his palace, and he gave him a fruit. He says, my dear king, this is a Amrit Phal. So if you eat this, you will not age, you will not get diseased, and you will have a long life. Since you are a good king, I want to give this fruit to you. So he was very happy. Then he started thinking, the only person I love in my life is my wife. I want my wife to not get old and let her beauty be remain, and she should live a long life. So he gave the fruit to her wife. So but her wife started thinking, okay, I love the person who is handling the horses in the kingdom. So let him live a good life, big life, long life. So she gave the fruit to him. And he was thinking, he was attached to some prostitute. Okay, she is so beautiful. So he gave the fruit to her. And she said, I am already so sinful. What will I do, increasing my life and, not getting old? Our king is so pious. He should live a long life. She goes to the court and she says, okay, my dear king, this is the Amar Fal. Bhartrhari, sir, he recognizes the fruit. He's thinking, how did it come to you? He asks, sir, where did you get the fruit? He says that officer gave me. So he calls the officer. How did you get the fruit? So in front of the king, you can't lie. He said, oh, Rani Sahiba gave me. The queen gave me. He calls the queen. Well, you gave the fruit to him. And he is all the way, he is laughing actually, Bhartrhari. Looking at the game, like Cupid makes you stupid. Right? So looking at the game of Kamda, he is just laughing. So she also cannot lie. Yes, I gave him. So then he was a great Kavi also. He wrote, the Shringar Shatakam. So where he sees the game, he recites a verse. I don't remember the verse, but he says, 5 people are condemned. You, my wife, you are condemned. Then you guy, this, horse officer, you are also condemned. Then you, prostitute, you are also condemned. And then Kamdev, who is, making all this, stupid game, he is also condemned. And the 5th person is, even I am condemned. I am so foolish. I was attached. So he gives up his kingdom and he just walks away. Right there and there. Well, this is all bogus. There is no love, no affection. This whole world is an illusion. He just walks away. He becomes a sannyasi, a renunciate basically. So at the same time, in another kingdom, there was one Vaishnav king who also became very detached and he gave up his kingdom. His name was Gopichand. So both these kings, they grew big, beard and all big, because you're not supposed to, take care of your body. And nobody could recognize them that this is Maharaj Bhartrhari and this is Maharaj Gopichand. So one day what happened was they crossed their paths, both of them. So Bhartrhari was going and there was a river. He said, okay, let me take a bath. And so he had a bag, the sannyasis, they have a bag. They keep some items. So he saw a tree and on the tree there was a branch. And he saw, okay, let me just put my cloth on this branch. So he put the thing on branch and he went to take bath. So afterwards, this Maharaj Gopichand came. After he renunciated, he also had a bag. So he saw, I want to take a bath, where should I put my bag? So he saw that tree with a branch. So one bag was already there. He said, there is a lot of space. He also put his bag. So while he was putting his bag, Bhartrhari came taking a bath. So he's saying, why are you putting your bag there? That is my branch. So Gopichand said, this tree doesn't belong to you. I can also use. I also have right on this tree. I will keep. So they had a big argument. They were fighting on who will keep the bag. So one old woman was going. So Bhartrhari called, Mataji, please come here. Okay, you please do our justice. We accept you as our panch. Right? You please accept, do justice. So he says, okay, what happened? Well, I came first. Bhartrhari says, and I put my bag here. And this guy, he is coming and he's putting his bag in my place. So Gopichand says, how is this his place? Okay, the tree is for everybody. Okay, even I can keep. And apart from that, there is a lot of place on the branch. There can be more bags added. So this old lady says, you two fools. Okay, have you heard about Maharaj Bhartrhari and Gopichand? Okay, they renounced in their youth. They renounced everything. And but you guys, you are renunciates and you are attached to that branch. What foolish people you are. And she didn't recognize that they are Bhartrhari and Gopichand. And they understood, my God. We left everything and we are fighting on this bench. So this is, unless one becomes a devotee of Krishna, and ultimately, unless one becomes a pure devotee, these asha paint will never leave us. So one has to really, in our chanting, in our sadhana, We are all dependent completely. So this Independence Day, let us declare our dependence on Krishna. Because in declaring our dependence on Krishna, real independence can be gained. Right? So unless we depend on Krishna, we cannot be independent. Because the default thing is that we are dependent on this Maya, Jagat, the material world. And Vasudev ji is nicely describing what is this Maya. Right? We'll always be in the dream. Always. Right? Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jathare shayanam. Ihe dastare khalu vistare, kripya pare, paahe murare. Ki only Murari can take us far. That is real independence. Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Moodamate. So Vasudev also was telling Kamsa, you're a Mooda, actually. You should understand this reality and do the needful. So Hare Krishna, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I am sorry I didn't speak any pastimes of Lord Krishna, but I'll reserve that for some other, more qualified speaker. Because speaking pastimes is it requires a lot of realization to speak pastime. Philosophy, any person can, speak. So, therefore I just thought I'll touch upon some basic Bhagavad Gita 101 from Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a PhD. So in the PhD level, the basic is also given. Why it is given? So that we don't forget it. Okay. Hare Krishna. So time is up, no? Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. I was told time is up. Okay. We are dependent on Prabhuji. So whatever he says.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much for the deeper understanding that you have given. And
Thank Vasudev ji.
in a such a very easy way to understand. Prabhu, one question that how can one understand how much he really realizes that he is not this body and he is the soul? To some extent, does anyone understand this? How do we know? Well, one, if he wants to know for himself, whether he really understands that or not. We hear that, that's but do we realize that? How do we know? And one more question, Prabhu, sorry, I will just add.
Let me answer the first one. So years ago, when I took the 7-session Bhagavad Gita course, it was started in Chapati. So I did that course, and then in one counseling meeting, I asked my counselor, "Hey Prabhuji, we are just talking about bhakti, bhakti, bhakti. But Gita is telling that, you are not this body, you are the soul. We are not putting any effort in understanding that you are not this body." I was actually telling him, okay, we should do something to understand that I am not this body, na? It's a valid question, right? You have a valid question. He told me you should not waste your time in understanding your body. You should use your time in chanting the holy names, serving Krishna, and then you will get that understanding. And actually, there is a tape of Prabhupada. So the Hare Krishna mantra is going on in the background, and Prabhupada says, by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one day one will understand that I am not this body. So you don't have to try to understand I am not this body. You have to just chant. That understanding Krishna will give. Because we are so deeply into this, like that thought that I should do that is a glimpse of hope. So, let that thought be there. But we should not do any extra thing, because there are so many other ways, paths, right, in the Hatha Yoga system and all, where people actually first try to understand that they are not this body. And then they will basically, focus on, the Paramatma, right? But we don't have that time. No. Kabir, there is a doha of Kabir that I don't remember it, but it means that don't be so proud of your body, because you don't know in which house or in which street you will die. Because in Kali Yuga, death has become very certain. It is always certain, but it is more certain now. There are innumerable ways that you can die. Right? The whole newspaper is filled with news of death. There is no news that this murda came up alive. There is news of death only. There is no news of life. So we have a very short time. So Prabhupada therefore gave us in the short time, how can you achieve the best thing? Because realization that we are not this body is a very preliminary realization. Realizing that I am a servant of Krishna, that's what we should try for. And in that realization, all the other realizations are included. Does it answer your question? I think it's time for Aarti. Hare Krishna. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय.
So there are many sevas and we need volunteers. If I just quote one, on Tuesday from 1:30 to 4 p.m. we need devotees for packing prasadam. So those who are available, we have got some list from the online registrations. We are trying to reach out, but if there are somebody who is still not registered, please reach out to His Grace Rukmini Ranga Krishna Prabhu or Swayam Prakash Prabhu to register for the sevas. And this is, we have to pack the laddu prasadam. These are all takeaway prasadams for Janmashtami. I would request Prasadisha Prabhu, you want to announce for the Arana? We all know on 18th, there are Janmashtami celebrations are happening at least 3 or 4 places together simultaneously. RR Nagar is happening on 21st. We announced last time. So there is a request from the devotees who are managing the yatra in RR Nagar for the Janmashtami. They've also requested devotees to be present and help them with the services. There are services, and this is at Subhash Bhavan, and the timings on 21st are from morning 9 till 9:30. So so morning 9 till evening 9:30. So there are again multiple sevas like kirtan, cooking, DT services, prasad distribution, guest reception, donor care. And for more details, please, I request devotees to reach out to Sankarshan Prabhu or Prasadisha Krishna Prabhu or Venugopal Prabhu. So just a reminder again for 18, those who all can be present, please be present for this wonderful sevas that we have. So let us all proceed for the Harinam after this. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna devotees. Hare Krishna devotees, now we'll end the class with Vaishnava Pranama. Vancha kalpatarubhesha kripa sindhubhyo cha patitanam pavanebhyo. Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki jai, Sri Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Gurudev ki jai, Hare Krishna. Sangashin Priya Prabhu, you want to say something? Hare Krishna devotees. Prabhuji, you can end the class.
Hare Krishna Venkatramana Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Hare Krishna Prabhu, are you able to hear me?
Yes, Prabhuji, I can hear you. I think you asked me something. I got a call.
No, I just I'm asking whether we can end the class or.
Yes, Prabhuji, we can end. I think we had the darshan of the Murti DT and Gopal.
I think they also logged off Prabhuji. So that's it.
Okay, Prabhuji, we'll end the class.
Thanks devotees once again for the joining.